Okay, we're now recording. We're reading pages 3 and 4 of the Unit 4, lesson number 1 notes. So we're going to start talking about simple random samples. And let me put this as a text box. Might be easy for you guys to kind of see what's going on here. Okay, so this is a text box. So this is what this means. This is when you randomly pick individuals, and you randomly pick n individuals. Let me repeat that: n individuals from the population. Each individual has an equal chance of being selected. So let's say, for example, we're dealing with the county of San Mateo. And say we ask them, so county of San Mateo, not the city, the county of San Mateo, and say we ask them some questions. We want to ask, have you taken a COVID test? And if yes, how did you test? What I mean by that is positive or negative. Oh, can you hold on a sec, guys? Hold on a sec.
Okay, clears here at 1:30.
Okay.
Front doors unlocked, or I can unlock it for them. Money's on the counter for them, and they need to get in your office to get the cleaning supplies.
Great.
So the pine cell's down there, and then they get stuff from up
Oh,
there.
okay.
Can you open the garage? Thanks. Okay. Bye.
Bye. Sorry about that. My wife and the kids are heading out, so I just had to chat with them really quickly. Question in the chat. No worries if you have to step out. That's if I had to step out too for just a little bit. Anyway, so yeah, let's say we're surveying people who live in the county of San Mateo. You know, have you taken a COVID test? How did you test, positive or negative? And maybe we might want to ask like their age, maybe their gender, maybe ask about ethnicity. Maybe ask, you know, living situation or number of people in households. You know, these might be all kind of like good things to ask, right? And also very objective things too, right? But here's a problem. I can't survey everyone in the county of San Mateo. That's really, really hard to do. So I need to do a sample. But I need to make sure my sample is representative of the county of San Mateo. Like I have to be kind of careful. Like what if I, you know, I just survey a bunch of people that live, I don't know, just trying to think here, in a certain neighborhood in Redwood City. And it might not be terribly representative. Like let's say, for example, like my parents used to live off Edgewood Road, and you know, Edgewood Road's a nice street. People are probably a little older because they probably lived there a long time. Also, it's very expensive to live there, so not something that young people can really afford. You know, the ethnicity might be a bit homogenous. I don't know. You know, but you want something that's more representative of the area you live in. And number of people household might be kind of skewed. So you know, I have to be kind of careful because if I just happen to pick just one neighborhood and just interview a bunch of people there, that might not be truly representative of Redwood City, because Redwood City has a lot of apartments, has a very diverse culture, lots of a lot of young tech workers. Some people have like maybe they live by themselves. Some people might have multiple people in in one dwelling. So I need something that's a bit more reliable. And N means a number, the number of people. Like I assume there's probably over 1 million people in the county of San Mateo. Actually, we have that data. I have to look it up. You know, maybe the population is like 1 million. And again, that's not feasible to survey 1 million people and to analyze that data. That would be really, really painful. So instead, maybe I want to do a sample of like, say, 1,000 people. I think that would be fair, but I also have to make sure I look at other cities, not just Redwood City, but maybe Belmont, maybe Burlingame, maybe San Mateo itself, maybe Millbrae, San Carlos, Menlo Park counts as County San Mateo, right? So, you know, I need to be mindful about that. So what you need to do is there's usually 3 ways. You need to pick it randomly, essentially. That's what you have to do. So I have to kind of like maybe randomly pick 1,000 people in the county of San Mateo, or randomly pick 1,000 households or something like that. How would I do that though? How would I randomly? Because when it's random, then I feel a little bit better about my sample, right? You know, if I just pick 1,000 people that live in one community in Redwood City or another town, that's not going to be terribly reliable. So how would I do this? How would I pick things randomly? Well, you could ways for random selection. You could use a random number generator, which I'm going to show you in just a sec. You could roll a dice. Like, for example, say there's only like 6 towns I want to look at. So maybe if I roll 1, that's Redwood City, so I got to pick something from Redwood City. If I roll 2, that's going to be San Mateo, so I pick from San Mateo. And so there's a bit of chance there, right? Or I put names in a hat. So I could actually take all 1 million names of San Mateo County residents and just randomly pick 1,000 people from that 1 million people. That could be another possibility too. Maybe not terribly efficient, but random number generator is kind of a good one. Let me show you how that works. So choosing a simple random sample, so SRS, with the table. So let's say we'll do a different scenario. Let's say the management company local mall, we'll say Stanford Mall, or maybe Hillsdale Mall, because I think Hillsdale Mall has more of these stores. Stanford Mall is a little bit too upscale, I guess. You know, have some of these stores here. Who knows? The management company local mall plans to survey a random sample of 3 stores to determine the hours they would like to stay open during the holiday season. So use table D below. So this is table D, the random digits. At line 101 to select an SRS of size 3. So how does this work? How do we actually do this? So there are 20 stores, and you assign a number to each store. So like, for example, Barnes & Noble 04, or like GameStop is 09, or I'm not sure if that Mrs. Fields cookies anymore, but that's like 13. Panda Express, it's actually one of my favorite places to go. I haven't been there in a long time, but maybe I'm due for a Panda Express run. Vitamin World, you know, 20, stuff like that. So what you do, we use so we start at line 101, right here. And we simply grab the first 2 numbers we see. So the first numbers we see are 19. So I'm going to use Star Jewelers. That'll be my first selection. So my first selection was number 19, which is Star Jewelers. Okay, now I'm going to pick another 2 numbers. I'll pick 22. The problem here is that for my second selection, I picked 22. I'll put a giant question mark. I don't know. There's no number. I didn't assign anything number 22. So we throw that out. I'll look at the next two digits. I'll look at 39. I don't have a 39 either. The next two, 50, I don't have a 50. 34, I don't have a 34. I do have a 5 though. And again, you're picking two digits at a time. Even if a store has like a 1 or a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, you make it two digits, like 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4, 0, 5, just for consistency. So 0, 5. So remember, my second choice is no good. My third choice is no good. My fourth choice was no good because remember my second choice was 22. My third choice was 39. My fourth choice was 50. My fifth choice was 34 until I got to my sixth choice, 0, 5. So I'm going to go with that one. That'd be Carter's for Kids. Actually, my I don't know if my wife shops there. We do get a lot of gifts from there though for little kids. So I'm actually quite familiar with that store. So Carter's for Kids. And then I keep going again. I don't have a 75. I don't have a 62. I don't have an 87. I do have a 13 though. And 13 is going to be Mrs. Fields Cookies. So those are going to be the stores that I'll survey and ask. So again, you know, I mean, I suppose you could always survey all 20 stores, not a big deal. But you know, what if you have like you know, I assume a mall like Hillsdale, for example, probably has like over 100 stores and a lot of like small little places. So you know, you don't want to survey all of them. So maybe just you do a random sample. And you just ask them, hey, you know, how long are you going to stay open during the holiday hours? And that might give you a good idea of what you could expect for the mall. And that's kind of important because, you know, maybe you figure, hey, you know, our mall might be open a little longer, so maybe we need to hire more security or have security work these hours, or you know, maybe you know, keeping the bathrooms open, or the, you know, the electricity going, stuff like that. So it's just kind of, you know, good knowledge to have. So let's look at these practice problems now, and we'll move on to the next lesson. So let's look at this one here. A department store mails a customer satisfaction survey to people who made credit card purchases at the store. Okay. This month, 45,000 people made credit card purchases. Surveys are mailed to 1,000 of these people, chosen at random, and 137 people returned the survey form. So you have even fewer people that are actually responding to the survey. And again, there's no way you could survey 45,000 people. And in fact, that's going to cost a lot of money to print all those forms and mail them out. So you just, you know, choose 1,000, and you did it randomly, which is important. That's kind of a key thing here, that you did it randomly. Very, very important that those people were selected randomly. And 137 people return it. So identify the population of the sample. The population is going to be the 45,000 people with credit card purchases. And again, say you own a store at some mall or some location, and you look at, like, you know, within the whole year, you know, 45, you have 45, you know, 1,000 people that made credit card purchases. And then you have their information, obviously. So you send this to the store to 1,000 of those people. But your sample is actually going to be 137 though. Because even though you wanted to hear from 1,000 people, 137 responded. So you can only focus on who responded. So 137 people who responded is actually your sample. Let's look at number 2 now. You're on the staff of a member of Congress considering a bill that would provide government-sponsored insurance for nursing home care. You report that 1,128 letters have been received on the issue, of which 871 oppose the legislation. Okay. I'm surprised that most of my constituents oppose the bill. I thought it would be quite popular, says the Congresswoman. Are you convinced that the majority of the voters oppose the bill? How would you explain this fiscal issue to the Congresswoman? Well, again, you received 1,128 letters. and 871 oppose it. So the problem here is that the response is voluntary. So I'm going to kind of like type up what I would say about this. Because there's only people who turned it in, right? And these are people who actually who actually took the time. So you weren't surveying people, and you didn't do anything randomly. It's just that these are people who actually wanted to respond to this, or were concerned about it. So this is that your response is voluntary. The proportion of letters opposed to the insurance is not a fair representation of the people you represent in your district. Let me expand that also just so it's a little bit easier to read. Those with strong opinions will tend to write a letter. So I would say it is likely that the proportion of people opposed to the insurance is less than the ratio of 871 over 1128. Because right now, if you actually were to calculate that ratio, let me just expand that just a bit more. If you were to calculate that ratio, let me get a calculator here. 871 divided by 1128, that's 77%. So that just seems like really high. Like, do really 77% really oppose this bill? You didn't even survey them. These are just people just wrote in. So it's not random. So you have no randomness here either. So that's another issue. Let's take a look at number 3 now. In June 2008, Parade magazine posed the following question: should drivers be banned from using all cell phones? Readers are encouraged to vote online at the following link. And in the July 13th issue, they should report the results. 85% said yes, while 15% said no. So what type of sample did the Parade survey obtain? First of all, it's voluntary. People chose to do this. So you're going to definitely have some bias here. And then explain why the sample method is biased. Is 85% probably higher or lower than the true percent results? I would say, let me get a text box out again. Is an overestimate. Since people who tend to respond who might have known in an accident with cell phone use. So it might be people who just feel very strongly about that. But again, it was voluntary. So you had no randomness again. And let me move that. Text box, you can read that a little bit better. So it might be an overestimate because people tend to respond to those who might have known. So they're biased, essentially. Any questions so far? Nope, okay. Then let's actually talk about number 4 here, and then we'll move on to the next lesson. So you've probably seen the mall interview approaching people passing by the clipboard hand. So sometimes you see that, like, or usually one guy at Trader Joe's used to always do that too. He was a good guy, but like I was always got a little annoyed because I didn't want to talk to him. I just want to go shop. But he approaches people passing by with the clipboard hand. Explain why even a large sample of mall shoppers would not provide a trustworthy estimate of the current unemployment rate. So that's what he's asking. He might be asking, hey, do you have a job or not? And that's his question. Well, the thing is that it's called a convenience sample. Let me explain why it's called that. It's not necessarily voluntary because you don't. I mean, maybe you go and seek and you want to answer his questions, but there's a bit of bias here. So people who hang out at the mall on a weekday have more time, probably are not employed. Well, I'll give you a good example. I mean, my wife is not, she has the hardest job. She takes care of 2 kids. But, she's not technically employed because, she has that time to go shopping, right? Because that's, the role she serves for our home. So, that's something just to keep in mind. Probably not employed. True percentage of unemployed people might be lower. And it's called a convenience sample since it was convenient for the person conducting the survey to just ask people at a mall. So there's really no randomness also. So that's another thing. So you have to be mindful about how you go about collecting your data. But you could also make a counter argument. You could say that some people who are unemployed don't have money to go to a mall. So it could be the true percentage is actually higher as well. So either way, it seems that there's a bit of a bias. So, again, we want to do things randomly. That's how we usually want to go about collecting our data. Okay, any questions? Nope, okay. So let me stop this recording and start a new